type of organizational structure that we choose will impact the layout of our facility. So let's go back and let's list the different types of departmentalization that we discussed in our previous video. So we had functional. So we group people based on task, HR department, marketing department. We had our product in terms of grouping people in terms of the output that they create. We had customer-based departmentalization. We had geographic. And we had process. So in terms of following a similar flow for the customer or terms of steps. All right, so let's look at these different types of departmentalization and how we might lay out the facility based on that departmentalization. So the first type of facility layout that we have is a fixed layout. So here you can see an example A. We have all these people working around a particular item that they're producing. So here they're making a plane. So it's fixed because everyone has to be at a certain location because of what we're working on. Now, what type of departmentalization do you have if you have a fixed layout? So we're going to group all these workers together based on what? Well, we base it on what they're making, right? So all of this group here is working on a plane. So we would have, if we have a fixed layout, we probably have some kind of product departmentalization. So we're all fixed in those locations because we're all working on the same product. Just like if you're working at the Hudson Bay Company, then you are fixed in your location because this is where the shoe department is. And so we group the people that are there based on shoes. So product in terms of the departmentalization has a fixed layout. The second type of layout that you see here is the one that's marked B. That is a process layout. So if we think about an emergency room, for example, we have an area for triage. If you broke your leg, you go to one area. If you have internal injuries, you go somewhere else. So we are grouping together the people and the machines and equipment by expertise. This is what is called a process layout. So we move the people or the materials to the location where those experts and machines are located. So what type of departmentalization would you have if you have a process layout? Well, we would have a functional departmentalization. So if you think about a business, we group together the HR department, we group together the accounting department. That's a process layout with similar people with similar expertise and similar equipment. So we have a functional departmentalization has a process layout. C is what is called a cellular layout. We'll come back to that in a moment. And D is what we call a product layout. So when you think of a product layout, think of the assembly line. You're following the steps to make that particular good or service. So everything is flowing through and we each do our step in that process. So what type of departmentalization would you have here? Well, we could group this set of individuals together based on process, on workflow. So that workflow is flowing through, which means they're all part of that production line. So a product layout goes with process departmentalization. The last one we have here in terms of layout is C. It is a cellular layout. And the idea behind the cellular layout is to find the best of process and product layouts and minimize the worst. So the challenge with the process layout is that we have a lot of work in process. We have a lot of movement of people or materials between all these different locations, which means there's a lot of items that are sitting waiting. So if we think about that emergency room, we move you, the patient, to the room you need to be in, but now you have to wait until the x-ray equipment is available, and then we move you to the next place. So there's a lot of sitting and waiting around. The challenge with the product layout, if we think about it as the assembly line, is if one part of the assembly line breaks down, then the whole thing stops. So it's based on that process flow. So the cellular layout attempts to kind of have a compromise of the two and allows for us to have that expertise of individuals look over multiple areas of that process flow, that workflow. So here we've grouped it then into cells. So the cellular layout's a bit of a compromise between the process and the product layout. As we think about the layout, we can think about other decisions in terms of those 6 elements of our organizational structure on decisions about our facility. So are we going to have offices with closed doors? Are we going to have more of a common workspace? If we are looking at a more mechanistic organization, which one of these pictures would it most likely be? So our administration is going to be in those closed door offices. There's a good deal of centralization, as we have the people in the main offices with their doors closed can make the decisions, and then those working on the ground floor. If you have more of an organic organization, it is less processes, less rules, more collaboration, then you're probably going with this more open concept. On the other hand, we have seen lately is a movement from the trend of open concept back towards a bit more of the cubicle compromise between the two, because while the open concept does lead to more collaboration and teamwork, it's also hard to get work done because there's lots of distractions. So you do see a movement a bit towards more isolation, but not the complete closed door that you tend to see in much more structured, formal, centralized organizations.